Louisville today. I want to just give a quick summary just in case anybody does not know what's going on. On March 13th of this year, Breonna Taylor was shot and killed in her home by LMPD warrant. 194 days later, that's today, the grand jury charged one officer essentially with endangering her neighbors rather than anybody actually indicting anybody on the killing of Breonna Taylor. So I want to get Perk your reaction first, and then Cassidy and Amin, feel free to weigh in. When you saw this news, Perk, what was your initial reaction?
Well, it's just BS. But you know, over the past few days, I was already preparing myself for this. When you look at it, you talk about how they were boarding up everything down in downtown Louisville. You know, Breonna Taylor's family, you know, getting paid and stuff like that, $12 million. And I just knew this was gonna happen. And it's unfortunate, and I feel very bad for her and very sad and sorry for her family. It's just not right. You know, I could come on here and holler and scream, but that's not gonna change nothing. At the end of the day, us as African Americans, we just dealing with the normal. So this is the new normal, I guess. You know, hey, it's okay to kill an African American. If you're a police officer, you know you're gonna get off and you just gotta move on with life, right? We just have to deal with it.
Your thoughts on this too, because at the beginning of the bubble, when the players went down in the bubble, you were very vocal about players being involved in social justice issues. So what was your reaction when you saw this news today?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like Perk, I wasn't surprised. I think, you know, one of the defining characteristics of being black in America with regards to the justice system is be prepared to be disappointed. Be prepared for the system not to work in our favor. Be prepared for these types of things. What Perk is talking about is many police officers in this country enjoy from qualified immunity, which means they can mess up and people's lives can be ended as a result of mess ups, and they kind of say, our bad, and we got to move on. And obviously, you know, being black means you are more likely to be on the wrong end of that mess up than not. It's disappointing, obviously, but it's not surprising. And in many ways, these are the moments that might test our resolve. And no matter just protesting, whatever, nothing ever changes. But the reality is this should double everybody's efforts to keep talking, to keep changing, because the changes don't just happen with protests. They happen on election day. And I'm not talking about the big house over in Washington, D.C. I'm talking about your local elections, your chief of police, your district attorney. These are the people who are responsible in Louisville and in Kentucky for the lack of charges we have for these police officers today. So if you feel that strongly about your local municipality, it's not enough to say, oh, well, I voted for the president. You got to vote for those local elections too.
Precisely. So the Nuggets and the Lakers played last night. They were in practice when the news came down. Here is their reaction.
I mean, there's really no words for that. Everybody knows that's not right. And, I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing about that, but like that's heartbreaking, because I know a lot of people have been doing a lot of stuff to try to get the justice that situation needs. And to hear that happened is not right.
I know that we've been using our platform down here, TJ, to try to bring about education and a voice. And a lot of players on our team especially have also spoken out on justice for Breonna Taylor. And we have not gotten that justice. And that's a shame. And hopefully that will change at some point.
Something was done, but it wasn't enough. Most guys thought it was a tough one. It's a tough one. But, you know, we're still trying to make the proper steps, we haven't got a chance to reconvene. You know, we need more time as a group, not just as our team, but as everyone in the bubble and outside the bubble, to figure out how we can continue to get progress.
Donovan Mitchell, who played at Louisville, tweeted, I don't have many words right now, but all I can say is I'm praying for the city of Louisville right now. Montrezl Harrell, who also is a Cardinal, also tweeted. He said, I lived in the Ville for 3 years of my life, and it became another home to me, but wow, what's happened? These are the charges you actually come up with. Nothing to say, but wow, speechless. He also followed that tweet up by sharing this picture with his Sixth Man of the Year award, posing with Breonna Taylor on his shoes. So Amin, I'll ask you this. A lot of people expected what we saw everything pretty much shut down. What do you expect to see from players tonight?
I don't know. I don't know if it's the same, quite the same. Jacob Blake had just happened. It was visceral. We were reacting. Obviously, the other thing that had happened, and I'll never forget this because I learned about it on the Wednesday when those games were canceled, was the white teenager who showed up in Kenosha and murdered 2 people and walked down the street with an assault rifle as cop cars went past him. And people are saying, that's him. He just shot 2 people. And the cops kind of just shrugged and let it go. I think that put extra gas on that fire in a way that Breonna Taylor, as sad as what happened to her, we've had months now to kind of steel ourselves for this. The shock isn't as visceral as it was, a few weeks ago when we dealt with that. So I expect some sort of protest probably to happen in terms of players and other members of the NBA family letting their feelings be known. But I do think we're going to play the game. I don't think we're going to have the cancellation because it's not quite the same visceral reaction as what we had a few weeks ago.
Cassidy, you were down there when the Jacob Blake shooting happened. We talked to you then, and a lot of players have been repping for Breonna Taylor since they got in the bubble also. So how important was this social justice issue to the players down in the bubble?
Well, it's extremely important. I just want to comment on something that Amin said, that, in reaction to the news today, that, it didn't work in your favor, our favor. The system is broken. The system is set up to oppress Black people. And I guess that's the reaction that may be happening among players today. They're not surprised, but what needs to happen going forward is we continue, as Amin said, to educate ourselves on local elections and to continue to vote. And as far as what happened in the bubble after the Jacob Blake shooting, as we see here, Donovan Mitchell with her Say Your Name, and these are Jamal Murray's shoes. And this is, of course, LeBron James with the hat. Say her name. And we're seeing in the WNBA and the Wubble, say her name, that slogan. The hashtags, the slogans, the standing up and messages for Breonna Taylor have been that. And I think Jimmy Butler made a point. He did to make sure that people know that it affects all Black people in our country. And it doesn't matter if I'm Jimmy Butler. It doesn't matter if I'm LeBron James. And here we are with Breonna Taylor, who you have Naomi Osaka wearing a Breonna Taylor mask at the U.S. Open. We just saw LeBron James, Jamal Murray, all these big name players seeking and asking for justice for Breonna Taylor, and still today, no justice. So that's the point, I guess, that I think players are expressing today, that it's not a shock, but it's still such a disappointment that is so painful. We just saw LeBron James post on his Instagram story, "I'm so sorry to Breonna Taylor. I'm so sorry that you didn't get justice." And Danny Green as well, he said, the fight today for justice for Breonna Taylor isn't over. And Renee Montgomery said, "You're one of the reasons why I opted out. And whether the court system thinks they gave us justice or not, we will make sure everyone knows your name. Continue to tell your story." So I think the reaction right now is that happened. Breonna Taylor and name will continue to live on, and hopefully justice in some way, shape, or form will continue to be sought for Breonna Taylor.
Perk, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I do. It's sad because, you look around the world and we've been protesting for, over 60 years, and everything that's been going on in the bubble, everything that everyone has been doing, using their platform to bring awareness and make sure, everyone is treated equal and in social justice, addressing that problem in America, and still no change, right? And, we have to go out there and vote. I remember, I just remember Amin talking about at the highest level. It starts from in your city. It starts with your mayors. It starts with, people that's running for city council. It starts with, your chief of police, all that. So, I see so many people, especially African Americans and a lot of athletes and former athletes that are saying, you know what, I'm not going to vote because my vote don't mean anything. And I just want to tell to the people out there that your vote means a lot. And if we want change, I believe that voting is the key. I mean, it's the key. It's not go, but it's a starting point. And I think, we got to make sure we get the right people in these seats that's going to do right by everyone in the world.
Perk, you mentioned something, and it made me think. You said how people have been marching for 60 years. Obviously, the players, like we've been talking about, have been doing this since they got in the bubble, right? They've been wearing Breonna Taylor shirts, social justice messages, and still it doesn't really seem like obviously anything really happened, especially in that case. Do you think that going down to the bubble, it was one of the sentiments that they had at the beginning? Amin, I'll ask you this. Do you think that going down to the bubble has really just kind of not really done anything in moving this conversation forward?
No, Christine, because I think one of the things that's important to remember is that it's not a microwave. It's not drive-through. In terms of the convenience, change will happen. Because like Perk said, this didn't start this year, right? They've been killing black people for years, police officers, right? The law enforcement, right? When you talk about systemic racism, it's not a rash of behavior that is localized or recent. This is, in many ways, the foundation of what this country is built on, right? So to expect that in one summer we're going to fix it all, that's not realistic. Part of the process is dealing with the failure and still fighting on. Perk, you can speak to this better than anyone. It would be like being on a basketball team and say, we practiced, we did all this stuff, we went out and played game one, and we lost game one. Well, the series is over. I told you all that practice wasn't going to matter. That's ridiculous. You keep fighting. You keep practicing. You keep devising game plans and strategies. You keep executing. And you do it with the eye that this is a long series, right? In the NBA, we talk about best of 7. This is the best of 400 years. So we're still fighting and we're still doing it. And so like Perk said, to say, I ain't going to vote, see, it don't make a difference. I ain't going to protest, see, it don't make a difference. That's not the attitude to have here.
Perk, you tweeted something today that I found very interesting. You said, basically that these people got kind of a slap on the wrist, but you have family members that have, taken harder charges for things that are less than this. So what do you think about that and kind of how social justice plays into that?
Well, I mean, Christine, it's crazy because down in my hometown in Beaumont and Port Arthur, it's called the Golden Triangle. It's one of the most dangerous places to live in America, right? And it's only about a population of 200,000. Behind bars that are in jail right now for, on drug charges that are doing 25 years. One of them is doing 50. And you just think about it like, it makes you so mad that someone could actually take someone's life and it's okay, and they get a slap on the wrist, of $15,000 fine, but yet someone could get found with 10 pounds of marijuana and all of a sudden they give them 25 years in the federal penitentiary. It's just unbelievable to me because, I mean, like I said, growing up in the African-American community, growing up in the hood, in the ghetto, and where I'm from, we see this every day, but it's just unfair. And I guess it's just what it is.
And Cass, I'll ask you this question before we go to Omar, who's down in the bubble. A lot of these players. As I said, you were down in the bubble for a while and kind of there when everything was going down. So what do you expect to see from players moving forward? Do you expect them to continue doing this, go harder? What do you expect to see?
Well, look, we have 4 teams left. We know that LeBron James always steps up and speaks out about social issues because not only does he take on that responsibility of being the face of the league, but it's important to him and it matters. And then you have Jamal Murray, who, has been outspoken and has shown emotion in dealing with the injustice in the United States. And, you have Andre Iguodala, who is one of the vice presidents of the Players Association, who, was one of the leaders with Chris Paul to make sure that the season continued on. And then you have Jaylen Brown, who has been one of the most outspoken players in the league when it comes to social justice, who drove all the way down to Atlanta to protest in the streets. So I just named 4 guys, and you still have to expect there to be emotional pleas, as continue to be emotional pleas out of the bubble. I will stress that, several people have told me that many thought that they were going to stop playing. That after that Wednesday meeting, all the emotions that came out of that meeting, a lot of players packed their bags because they thought that that it was going to be over. I don't expect players to stop playing now. I think they have seen that this platform that they have here is more valuable than walking away. And I think we're going to continue to see that out of players using this platform to bring attention to the injustices in our country.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Has certainly illuminated a lot of those messages. And speaking of the bubble, let's go inside the bubble. We now welcome in our guy, Omar Raja, who is down in the bubble. Omar, we're talking about how players are reacting to the news that came out of Louisville today, and you're in the bubble. So what exactly are you seeing?
So when we went to Lakers practice, it was hard to get a sense of did all the players hear the news, because practice was going on when the news broke. So when you were watching them on the court, everything seemed pretty much normal, but Danny Green spoke after, and he informed us that LeBron sent a text message to the group informing them of the news, and pretty much everyone on the team in that group chat spoke about how they didn't feel like just any of them weren't happy about it.
So you're in the arena now. There's players warming up. I'm sure you've seen players and you've been on campus. So what's the overall vibe of the campus right now?
So far, it seems normal. Going to the game today, everything kind of seems like status quo in the sense that everyone's still practicing and training. I think there was some thoughts among reporters is, hey, are they going to play today? But it seems like everything's going on the right track of them playing today. One of the conversations I had with the reporter was, hey, when about a month ago with Jacob Blake, you could tell right away in the Raptors practice that, hey, something was really off. But I think Danny Green spoke about it. He's like, we're still going to use our platform, and we're going to be even louder now. So I think it'll be interesting to see during the game. So that's the kind of the thing that I'm going to be looking out for.
Well, we'll see what happens. Like you said, it will certainly be interesting to see what both teams do tonight. We'll get ready for the game right now. Thanks, Omar.
Miami's lead in this best-of-7 conference final is now 2-1. The Boston Celtics right back in this series.
Now we're ready to see what we're made of.
Got downhill. Bam says, get it out of here. Here's Tatum, runs, and throws it down.
We're a family. We won't ever leave, and nothing's going to stop us from trying to maximize that.
I had to tighten the up, but I'm here for the crown.
It is now time for the main attraction, the Eastern Conference Finals matchup, Game 4 between the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. On this Heat team, there's been a lot of young players that we've been talking about. We've been very impressed with them, but Game 3, the Celtics really exposed Duncan Robinson on defense. Perk, what are you expecting out of the Celtics tonight?
Well, I think they're going to come out with the same intensity. But here's the thing, Christine. The Miami Heat could play bad and beat the Celtics. The Celtics cannot play bad and beat the Heat. And what I'm saying is that the Celtics almost had to play a perfect game to beat the Miami Heat, and the Heat and Jay Crowder going 4 for 20 from the field and not really getting nothing from their bench besides from Tyler Hero. And then you think about what the Celtics had to do. You had Jason Tatum almost getting a triple-double. Jaylen Brown, playing outside his mind, going 11 for 18 from the field. Kemba Walker shot 50% for 20-something points. And then you had Marcus Smart, who was 5 for 10 from the field with 20 points. And I'm like, can they keep that up for the rest of the series to beat the Miami Heat? I just don't know, and I think Eric Spoelstra is going to come out with some adjustments. Obviously, having Gordon Hayward back, he have to make some adjustments because Gordon Hayward is so special to this team, even if he's not scoring. He's so impactful for the simple fact that even when he's on the court, he's a decoy. He cuts without the ball, so he takes a defender with him that opens up shots for anybody else. And also, Gordon Hayward is also a guy that is pretty good on the defensive end, and he's a pretty good passer. So I think the Miami Heat going to make adjustments tonight, and I think they actually are going to win this game.
So speaking of his best 5 out on the court, Hayward, Tatum, Walker, Jaylen Brown, Smart, do you think, I'll ask you this, Amin, do you think that even with that lineup, do you agree with Perk that if that lineup plays bad, that they could possibly, or if they play good and the Heat play bad, wait, what did you say? You said the Heat could play bad and they could win, and the Celtics could play bad. Like, whoever plays bad. Do you agree with Perk, even with that lineup, that is true?
This is what I'll say. First of all, you named that lineup in the wrong order because Hayward is the 5th best player on that. The players that you named. I am staggered how much of a big deal we make about the 5th best player. You got 6 points and 4 rebounds.
He averages 17 points a game.
Yeah. No, he's Larry Bird. Larry Bird walked through that door all of a sudden. No, I'm going to tell you something. The Miami Heat made the game interesting in the second half. You know what they shot from 3 in that second half? 4 of 20. If they go 8 of 26, that's still way below Miami Heat standards. Mm-hmm. But it completely changes the complexion of the game. I'm with Perk. I think the Heat are going to make adjustments. I think they're going to make shots that they normally make. And, you talked about Hayward being a little bit of a decoy. That's what Duncan Robinson is. I had the pleasure of interviewing Ron Rothstein, Heat broadcasting. He was the first head coach in Miami Heat history. And he talked a lot about Duncan Robinson. If Duncan Robinson shoots 4 3-pointers, makes 1 of them, he's done his job, because that means they were hugged up on him to all like, oh, no, there's no chance I'm going to let Duncan Robinson beat me. Well, guess what? If you're doing that as a defender, we're playing 4-on-4 over here. We're giving Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and Goran Dragic single coverage look. The space that someone has to cover to recover to another shooter is even greater. So Duncan Robinson being on the floor and being aggressive, and that's the key. He can't be shy. He can't be scared. He's got to be aggressive out there. But make or miss, his reputation gets the job done for the Miami Heat.
So, Cass.
Yo, you are going on and on about not talking about Gordon Hayward being the 5th best player, and you just did a whole monologue on Duncan Robinson. Look, respect to Duncan Robinson. That dude's a pure shooter. But Gordon Hayward is an established all-star. So let's just slow your roll. And plus, Gordon Hayward's more than just a decoy. I mean, I really feel like he is the key to, unlocking the Heat's zone, even though I think that the Heat should still roll out control throughout that game 3. And yes, they shot nearly 50% from the floor. And, they outscored the Heat like 60-36 in the paint. So I also would say that the Heat were probably tired coming into that game. They need to stop playing from behind. That's the biggest key. Jimmy Butler was saying we need to come out of the gates hot, and I think they need to come out of the gates hot, and it's got to be that guy, Christine. Jimmy Butler. On the last show, I praised him for his selflessness. Mm-hmm. I praised him for how he played in game 2, those defensive plays, setting his teammates up, but he's a star of this team, and he needs to lead the energy. He can't just feel out this game. This is an extremely important game for them, the Celtics, more confidence in this series. And I think Jimmy Butler needs to come out hot from the start.
So, Perk, you said something very interesting. I watched your tweets during games, and you said, because we talked about this on this show, that you called the Miami Heat the Goons, and you said that the Celtics outgooned the Goons. Right? So, I mean, I know right now you're saying that they couldn't play a bad game and still win. So, but what did you see out of the Celtics that was successful that you expect to see tonight?
Well, they dominated them in the paint. I think it was like 64-36 or something in paint points. And the Celtics were just aggressive. It started off with Jaylen Brown. He was just going downhill. It wasn't a lot of east to west. It was more north to south. And I thought he set the tone early. The Celtics were really aggressive in the paint. I thought they did a great job with by attacking the basket. And I think that's that Gordon Hayward effect. Even when they had Grant Williams in the game, caught Bam a few plays, he was sagging the ball to Grant Williams, and he knocked down 2 crucial 3-pointers. But I thought on the defensive side, They were picking up the Miami Heat as soon as they crossed half court. They on the ball pressure was phenomenal, and they had them playing on their heels the whole time. The Celtics were on the Miami Heat heels like a pair of socks. That's all I could say. They were on their heels the whole game.
Oh, I just love those analogies. Okay, so let's get your game picks. Let's start with Amin. Who do you got winning tonight?
Honestly, I think that the Celtics even it up. I had this series going to 7 from the beginning, even when the Heat went up 2-0. If the Heat win tonight, then Boston might as well start packing its bags because they're going home. But I think Boston's going to come out and win tonight.
All right, Cass, who are you taking?
I mean, y'all really make me out to be some Celtics fan. I'm a fan of no one other than the young version of me as a Bulls fan. But I think I'm going to go with the Celtics as well tonight. I think these couple days off actually were pretty good. Probably good for them to continue to bond after, as we are watching Marcus Smart right now, whatever happened in the locker room. I think these couple days they can point and say, hey, we had success in game 3 and build off of that. And I think they're going to come in motivated and energized. Not that the Heat aren't, but I just see that the Celtics, I just feel that the Celtics are going to win this one.
Perk, the Goons or the out-gooned Goons? However that works.
I had this series going 7, but when it was only going to go 5 or 6, so I'm picking the Miami Heat tonight. I think they have a better team. They don't have a lot of household names, but Tyler Hero is a stud. And then Jimmy Butler, he is going to have a phenomenal game tonight. I could just feel it. And then, by the way, they don't have an answer for Bam. In my opinion, Bam is the third best big in the league behind AD and Big Jokic, in my opinion. And he has been dominating. Now, if he could bring that on the defensive end, along with how he had 25 points and 16 rebounds, if he could give 3 or 4 blocks and have, I think the Heat are going to walk away with the W, because there's no way that Jay Crowder and Goran Dragic are both going to be 2 for 10 from the field tonight. I just don't see it happening.
All right, well, I'm taking the Heat because they look like they were having a lot of fun at practice today playing soccer instead of basketball, which makes me feel like they got this in the bag. They're not even concerned about it. But I do want to point out one thing. Gordon Hayward had a baby today. And originally, he was going to leave the bubble, I think, or he said he wasn't going to leave the bubble when he knew that his wife was going to have a baby. The baby is named Gordon Theodore Hayward, and he's called Theo. So congratulations, Gordon Hayward and his wife for having a baby.
Daddy is happy.
Shout out to his wife for having that baby without her husband there, because I don't know if I could do that. I don't have a husband, but I feel like when I have a baby, I want my husband there.
So now that makes 4 kids. So she also has 3 other girls she has to watch, in addition to a newborn. Shout out to Robin Hayward, the real MVP here.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. Couldn't be
Congratulations for their first boy.
Yeah, seriously.
That was their first
Congratulations,
right?
Gordon, for not being the only guy in the house now.
Well, I honestly, I don't know if maybe I'm outdated, but I thought that whole video of him, with the gender reveal, finding out there was another girl, and he said, "Daddy's always happy." I thought she was supposed to have another girl.
That's what it seemed like.
Cheers to them.
Exactly. Maybe
3 girls and a boy.
Trying to throw us off a little bit.
True.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Thanks, Cass. Thanks, Perk. Thanks, Amin. And, of course, thanks, Omar, who's down in the bubble. We got Celtics Heat right now on ESPN and the ESPN app. We will see you guys next time.